I'll take a look at safety on the internet. Now, today is Safer Internet Day. I've just gotten this from the website, East and West Africa. It's good to have you in studio, Karibu sana.
Thank you, Fred. It's a pleasure.
Okay, and in studio we also have Vincent Ngundi, the Acting Director, Cybersecurity and Head of National Cybersecurity Center at the Communications Authority of Kenya, CA.
Thank you for having us, Fred.
It is a pleasure to have you in studio. Now, we've gotten to a point where the internet is just part of our daily life, and we rarely pay attention to most of the activity that we engage in on the internet. And a lot has changed. The kind of issues that were there a few years back vis-a-vis what we are facing now has totally shifted. And I just want to understand, the year is 2024. What are the unique risks that we are facing in our engagement on the internet? Let's start with you, Bwana Ngundi.
I think I can summarize the risks into user-based risks. I think the weakest link on the internet, and for technology for that matter, is a human being. Computers don't build themselves. They're built by human beings. Computer networks are not born by themselves. They're created by human beings. The users of these technologies are also human beings. And I think the biggest and weakest link that we've had over the years is a human element. And I think substantial investment and effort to be put in creating awareness, but also building capacities so that the people who use these computers use them in a responsible way. Okay,
so we are the biggest risk to ourselves. Why is this, and what
assume that attackers are after the systems, but they are actually after the humans. And that's where you find the linkage between the human element becomes the weakest point. And even when they use technology, the target is essentially you at the end of the day. But also when we address how we consume the technology, that's something that really needs to be looked at. Because you find that when we're out there on the internet, are we conscious of what we're sharing? You know, are we mindful of what we are sharing? And we end up sometimes oversharing on one end. But this also touches also on, if we look at technology makers and so forth, there's the aspect of, again, over collecting information, which also needs to be looked at. And you have all these data troves that sometimes are not necessary and create a big risk for you even as a business in terms of the footprint of attacks. So those two elements combined, and as Daktari had said, when we look at some of the basics like capacity building and awareness, unfortunately, they're the most overlooked areas, you know. So many people are out there on the internet streets, if I may call it, without any protection or any safety in mind. So we lack a culture around safeguarding ourselves. Okay. Yeah.
Now, from a CA's perspective as a regulator, because we saw that case recently with the WorldCoin, where a lot of data was being collected and people were sharing this data and protection in Kenya.
So first, I'd like to say that it's a global problem. It's not a Kenyan problem. And again, it boils down to the same issues, awareness. We've had a data protection law for quite a number of years. But the question is there adequate awareness in terms of what the user rights are, what the consumer rights are? Because businesses will always want to make the best of any opportunity. It's the onus of government, obviously, but also the responsibility of consumers to ensure that they're aware in terms of their obligations, but also the obligations of others. And so I think in terms of legislation, we're okay. I might not speak for the Data Protection Office, but I must say that we're among the most progressive countries when it comes to cybersecurity laws.
Yet we saw that it almost looked like a disjointed response by the authorities, especially when it came to that particular incident. And one may wonder, is it a lack of legislation? What exactly was the issue? It appeared that we were caught flat-footed.
I don't think we were caught flat-footed. I think if it were to happen again, and I hope it doesn't, I think we'll respond better. I think the internet and the technologies around it are still new to many communities. And they're still finding ways of responding better. And as I said, it's not just a Kenyan problem. If you look around, you'll realize that there are even other economies that even have bigger challenges. But I think the key thing is to learn from our experiences and be better to to serve
you may be facing with that. Just direct us. What kind of risk are you staring at when you share this kind of information?
Wow, it's. Let me first say, I read somewhere that if you're not selling your data on the internet, you're the producer, not the customer. Mm-hmm. You know, so your data is being bought somewhere, okay? And businesses do need data to function. That's the truth. And even as technology advances, we look at AI, it's all about how much data you're able to feed into it and so forth. But the awareness, back to the awareness conversation first, do people know that as individuals, when it comes to your personal information, that you have control and agency over that? Of course, unless special cases like public interest and national security are concerned, we need to drive more engagement around that awareness because the risk is huge. Just recently, if I may just point out a case that happened, I think either earlier this year or sometime last year, there was a massive transaction took place out in Hong Kong where an employee transferred $25 million. Mm-hmm. And how this happened is they used AI and deepfake videos and created a company meeting, your children's safety and so forth. So if we look at the aspects that your data holds and how that can be used by a bad actor, it's really a bad picture that can be painted. The scenarios are too many.
And it raises some serious concern because sometime last year we saw that even the government e-citizen service had been hacked, and this one carries all our data. Yeah. And one may wonder if at all the government is still prone to this kind of attacks. And even a government system where I share my data willingly can be attacked. Yeah. And then how safe am I when I'm sharing data with these other privately run services as well?
I think the reason e-citizen got a lot of visibility is because it's very public facing. It's a government service as well. The government has a transformative agenda of ensuring that every citizen has access, whether they're within the country or outside the country. And I think that creates a lot of interest when it comes to such a publicly available critical system. But I'll tell you also other actors face a lot of challenges. The private sector, for example, they'll get a lot of attacks. They'll be compromised at times, but it doesn't always come out there because it's not as visible as government. But having said that, I think there's a lot of effort by government to ensure that not only public services and public systems, online systems are secure. We're also looking at a concerted effort, private-public partnerships, to ensure that also critical systems, because there are critical systems that are run by private enterprise. So that's a government interest because any impact on those systems requires concerted effort from government to the private sector, the NGOs, for example, academia because of research. And it's through that the government established the National Cybersecurity Center, which brings together all these actors into one table to think together, how best can we secure? Mm-hmm. And a key point is over 95%, perhaps even more, of technology is run by the private sector. So clearly the responsibility of cybersecurity can't be just government because government doesn't even control.
But in terms of mitigating the risk that we face, now from a CA perspective, you're the head of the National Cybersecurity Center.
Yes.
How much, in terms of percentage, can you say you can actually guarantee Kenyans that, yes, this much, we can protect you?
We don't have those numbers. I don't think anybody has, but there's effort. And I think it's based on best practice, both global and ocean, and also best practice from our allies. And it's about, one, understanding, knowing. I think knowing is important. Mm-hmm. And that's why we monitor cyberspace, Kenya cyberspace for threats. Mm-hmm. And once we know what's happening, then we can inform and come up with appropriate strategic interventions to counter that.
Okay.
So from the reports, like we saw in the last 3 months, we detected over almost 1.3 billion attacks, which was quite a significant growth from what we had seen the quarter before. But through that, we sit down and look at, is what we are doing working for example, the building. And I'll give you an example. When you had the incident, the East Citizen incident in July, again, there was a challenge in terms of how we coordinated ourselves. Not to say that we didn't solve the problem, but I think we'd have done it better. So what we did is immediately we brought in all these key stakeholders, government, private sector, academia, and did a course on crisis management. Because what we see informs the interventions that we take. And I think that's the approach that is adopted the world over. Because cyber criminals don't just use one mode of attack. It changes based on many factors.
Okay.
And so you have to keep up, and unfortunately you have to keep up.
Yeah. That's the only way.
You really have to keep up. There are things that you'll do proactively, continuously, but at times you need to react. Because that happen.
When it comes to technology, everything changes. Things change very fast. And I'm reminded of a case where a college student, an IT student, was arrested in Bomet, I think 2 years ago. He had hacked into 481 bank accounts and transferred $400,000. This is a student, meaning that even from an academic perspective, we could be generating a risk from that end as well?
The risk is everywhere. Because you see, information is out there, you know, on how systems work, on how systems can be manipulated and so forth. And again, back to the human element, you find like from a recently released report by Verizon, they searching like that SMS that we normally receive to Makwahi number, you know, now on email and so forth, and social engineering, you know, people creating personas and using that to carry out attacks. So when you think about it from that perspective and you look at the effort versus the reward that these actors are carrying out, and yet most of them are financially motivated, there is a great reward, unfortunately, for cyber criminals compared to the effort that they have to apply, you know. And like Daktari has said, we are all, it's a learning, every day it's learning, you know, picking up lessons from yesterday and making changes and so forth. But I'll also add in, maybe this calls for a mind shift, you know, in terms of how we perceive cybersecurity and cyber attacks. And why I say this is because we tend to have this mindset that we can stop or fully prevent attacks from an absolute perspective. While the truth is we probably need to develop a mind shift where we say, let's imagine that we'll be attacked. It's a matter of when, not if. Okay. You know, it's a matter of when. And as someone said, there are two organizations in the world, right? There are two organizations that run. One that has been hacked and the other that doesn't know it has been hacked. Okay. So if we develop a mind shift and a mindset to say, we will be attacked, so how do we pick it up from there, all right? This helps us build resilience and best practice systems, build the right capacity in organizations, have the right processes that are security-centric and data protection sensitive and centric, and all the way up now to the last bit, which is now where the technology that we consume comes into play. Okay. Yeah.
And one may wonder, because when you're dealing with normal criminal activity, we have the police force to act as a deterrent, to investigate and ensure that compliance takes place. Yeah. Do we have an equivalent when it comes to cybersecurity? Do we have a force or a service that actually now reacts to this kind of issues?
Actually, there is a force at the DCI offices. There's a department that deals with that. Well-trained people, I must say competent. Are they enough? I'm not too sure about that. But we also collaborate with them at the National Cybersecurity Center. So we have officers seconded from the DCI sitting with us. And the main reason behind that is you need to be expeditious when you're dealing with cybercrime. So you don't want to detect cyber criminal activity, then you have to write a letter to the DCI and tell them that I'm seeing this, can you work on it? Then they write back and ask, can you give us more information? So what we thought and what the government thought is, let's bring these players together. Ourselves who are monitoring, but also the DCI who have jurisdiction over managing criminal activity. And so that has helped a lot, because anytime we see something that is bordering on criminal activity, and because of issues of chain of custody, you want to hand it over, and there's a deliberate effort by government to develop a pool of professionals over time, because you need that kind of cyber defense, cyber army if you want, to protect the investments that you're putting into technology. Okay. The president's vision is very clear, that it has to be access to public services for all. And that means everybody in this country, but beyond, even our citizens in diaspora and other users. Okay. Now, that vision is not going to be watered down. It has to be achieved. So what we need to do is to make sure that we are ready to counter any challenges that, are targeted at that kind of a vision, because it's a vision that's important for this country.
Okay. And you mentioned the fact that we face a challenge in inadequacy in that area of cybersecurity, or individuals who may actually take up that kind of job. And is it an issue of capacity? Are we able to train or to churn out more cyber-oriented security officers?
Yeah. As I said, it's a global problem. But from a Kenyan perspective, there's concerted effort to build capacity. It's also not very cheap, and it takes time to build certain capabilities, especially in cybersecurity, and mostly because of its dynamism. But it's also costly, and the government is putting a lot of effort. The private sector as well. As I said, we do continuous training, not just for government officials, but for people who operate critical infrastructure. Okay. And it's because cybersecurity brings all these people together.
Okay, let's take a look at another very interesting aspect of the internet, and this is little checks and balances. What is the kind of risk we are looking at?
While we are free to share or do anything online, one thing that we need to understand is that we are not free of the consequences of our actions, right? So you find we're in a world where sharing, building followers, creating content is what generates, it's even a revenue generating or rather income generating venture. But we need to be conscious, all right? We need to be conscious of what we're doing well on the internet. Even from a point of sensitive to, is what I'm doing harmful to anyone else? That's something that we need to consider. Is it harmful to my person and the people around me? Those are things that we need to really go back to the basics of socialization. Just because we're on the internet, it doesn't free us from certain societal norms that we have been observing without the internet. Can I say something about you that I wouldn't say to you, to your face? Certain basic rules. What am I sharing out there? There are certain things that we can do to protect ourselves, because sometimes you find it is from a point of lack of knowledge, right? I'm out there taking photos with my location settings on. My phone will save all that. When I post it online and I'm tagging locations, that's going to live on the internet forever. When I'm out with my family, yes, I'm at a restaurant, I'm having a good time. But is it necessary for me to upload my location? Why? Nowadays, all the way to video games are online, and do we know who they are talking to online? They have social media profiles. Who are they interacting with? What are they discussing? What are they sharing? And these things come back now to home and to individuals, the kind of conversations that we're having, the level of awareness that we are driving. Because just tying to the last conversation that you had, you see, when we talk of capacity around cybersecurity, while there is a shortfall when it comes to professionals, trained professionals, the aspect of enhancing security is a collective effort, all right? The same way you'll find that we do definitely have fewer policemen compared to the larger population, but it does not take away your responsibility of safety and security just because you're not a uniformed officer. So in the same way, there are certain things that we need to learn, like safe usage of the internet. Where am I going? Am I accessing safe sites? Am I oversharing?
Yes, you raise the issue of awareness, and you say it's a general societal need that everyone needs to be aware. Is there any grouping or institution that is tasked with raising awareness on just how far you can go? What can you do? Okay, fine, you've crossed the line here. Who does that job?
So the Communications Authority has a child online protection program, and it's geared towards exactly this discussion, not being taken away in the internet space. Parents must work harder, because we're in the digital world, to make sure that they understand the challenges of these technologies and ensure that their kids don't fall prey to that.
Okay.
I think that for me is very important. Of course, the government has the public duty to create awareness, and that's why some of those programs are in place to continue creating awareness. And we look at forums where we can meet teachers, parents, children specifically, including the Children Parliament, to discuss such issues and how we can spread that word across. But I also want to take up on an issue that was raised on the issue of responsible use. And I think because some of the cases that we receive at the National Cybersecurity Center are, you know, somebody is misusing my photos online. But when you trace it, you realize that that person actually uploaded that photo themselves. Now, there are terms and conditions for any service that you subscribe to. I mean, few of us ever read what those terms are, such that when you go and report to some of those social media companies, and most of them are very responsive, by the way. Some are not, but some are very responsive. They tell you that it doesn't meet our community standards. And the community standards are what you signed up for when you're setting up for the service. Is that adequate? I don't think it is. I think also these social media companies can do more, even in terms of contextualizing their policies and standards to make sure that it adapts to also local contexts.
Okay.
Whether it's specific countries, you can't just have standards that cut across the world. I think for such companies, they have a responsibility to try and contextualize. There are things that are not Kenyan.
Okay.
There could be, they are not Kenyan. You know, they don't subscribe to our culture. But at the same time, I think there's a need for us to be responsible because the internet is not going anywhere. It's here to stay.
I remember an issue about cyberbullying and to what extent it can actually get to. And it may involve people even beyond the young ones. We are in a country where our head of state was forced out of one social media space because he could not handle the kind of bullying he was receiving there. And you wonder who does the policing for such, because it appears social media has been left to anyone and anyone to say anything that they deem fit. As you say, it is a culture-specific approach, but when it comes to our space, we seem to be losing control of what people can do, especially on social media.
You know, again, back to the bit of responsibility, you'll find that while there's the space where technology providers are trying to set guidelines, you know, and they're being, it's being enforced for them to be stricter by the dead is being bullied online or and so forth. Do I take up the responsibility to report on certain things? You know, what is my place around that? And then, and I think, Dr. again, there's everyone's effort in it. There's the place where government, like he's just talked about, the contextualization of all this. How is technology meeting public interest wherever it is being applied, you know? And that's a wider conversation that brings in all key players from government to technology makers to the public to academia, you know, to come together and think about some of these things and ask what are the impacts of technology, both positive and negative, in our communities, and how can we work together to improve the consumption of technology, because we do need it, you know, and we need to take advantage. It needs to work for us. So how can we create environments, policies, and so forth, and laws and regulations that help for safer use and consumption of technology? So there are many approaches to it that all need to be working on the same stream. So.
And some of the criticism has come, especially towards the National Assembly. They say that in as far as technology is concerned, or the use of the internet is concerned, our legislators appear to be disconnected or to be coming from a point of a lot of lack of information. Do you agree with that assessment?
I think our members of parliament are very well informed. We have attended a number of meetings that have been somewhat controlled in terms of how these companies operate within our jurisdictions, because we have a social responsibility to ensure that we protect the Kenyan people, whether it's children or adults, because as you say, adults are also being bullied. And so we are taking a legislative approach, even as we continue collaborating with social media companies and digital platform providers for that matter. We are taking a legislative approach even as we continue enhancing our collaborations, because as it is right now, what we have are collaborative approaches. engaging them, having partnerships, having mechanisms of expediting takedown of content that is harmful to the Kenyan people. But I think a legislative approach is more permanent. It's a better way of looking at it.
Because I remember a case in, a few years back, I think last year or the year before, where someone actually took a communication that was based on the internet and had a complaint about it, sought redress in courts, but then did not get a favorable response. And one may wonder, are the rules different, especially in issues of libel and such like things? That does the law apply the same way on the internet as it does in physical life or physical interactions? Can anyone answer that?
I think the challenge with some of these companies is that they are global in nature. They provide a global service, and that's the power of the internet. You can be based in Nairobi, but you can provide a service to anybody in the world. The power of eCitizen, for example. We'll have equipment in Nairobi, a platform in Nairobi, but it's globally accessible. And I think that's why we need to promote and encourage the adoption of such kind of technologies. But it comes with challenges. Most of these companies are domiciled outside the Kenyan jurisdiction. So the local laws don't necessarily apply to them.
Okay.
And that's why the effort towards enhancing our legislation to cover them, it will ensure that whatever mechanisms we come up with, they are bound by some local obligations.
Okay.
To ensure that if somebody goes to court, for example, or if there's something that is harmful to the Kenyan society, then our local laws apply to them. So the problem has been they are not bound by local or Kenyan laws, for that matter, but by the fact that they're domiciled elsewhere.
Yet they are licensed to operate in Kenya.
They are not licensed.
They have to go through...
and that's what we're looking at. They are not licensed.
Okay.
And that's the reason why they're not under our local laws.
Okay.
But if you could have a way of ensuring that they are bound by our local laws, it could be licensing, it could be registration, it could be accreditation, and so on and so forth. That would help.
Have we been too receptive to some of these technologies? I know for a fact that some of these social media spaces are not allowed in certain countries. Has Kenya been too receptive to everything that comes from these initiatives?
I can't say that we've been too receptive because, again, if aspects of technology, we want to take the benefits that technology comes with. So that means that we have to have open borders and open skies to the technology that we receive. But at the same time, even as we consume, do we have adequate legislation to protect? Do we have adequate mechanisms to protect the consumers of this technology? And sadly, you find we have to keep playing catch up. As we consume, are we learning, and are we putting in effect even that which we did not have? And I think we have come a long way as a country. We have come a long way when it comes to our technology adoption and when it comes to laws and regulations. And it's good days ahead, Fred. Let me say that, yeah.
And now that there's a special focus on the young ones, children and the younger population, what are the 3 or 4 things you can advise parents, the do's and don'ts when it comes to their children's interaction, especially on the internet? Because we are in a day and age where the use of internet is so pervasive. Every child, most children have phones and have direct access, probably unchecked access.
I'll say a couple of things first. The first will be create a safe space for your child to even have access and talk to you. Do we have environments where our children we can hold them accountable, where they can come and talk to us and tell us, this is what I have been doing on the internet, this is what I have come across, so and so, there's someone who reached out. That's the first usage, is where you should go, where you should not go, who you're talking to, and so forth. That's the first aspect. Then, of course, as you look at different sets of technology, they come with even all the way from social media to videos that we watch online, they have parental controls. Let us apply these parental controls, and then let us teach our children what can be shared, what shouldn't be shared. And the same rules that we have out there. Don't get into a stranger's car. Don't get into a chat with a stranger. don't expose things that should not be seen by other people. So again, it goes back to the aspect of good parenting and just having conversations, and even outside to the schools. You know, the schools also need to come into the conversation and help drive these conversations, and again also to the media. You know, you also have a part to play in this process, you know, in terms of what content you're also showing and encouraging for this kind of participation.
Okay. Wanagundi, your final comments on this?
Yeah, I think I agree with Andrew. The need to be close to our children and the need to pay attention to what they're doing. But I just wanted to share a bit of statistics from our Child Online Protection website. One is that 89% of sexual solicitations are made in social media. That's through research.
89%?
89%. 75% of youth who receive sexual solicitations are unlikely to tell a parent or guardian. Again, it goes to what Andrew is saying. Statistics show that as many as 1 in 5 children aged 10 to 17 have been solicited sexually online. And 45% of children aged 10 to 17 have been asked for personal information by someone they don't know. And that also cyberbullying can happen through the text. So it's not just about the internet, it can also be through text messages. But one interesting thing is that 75% of youth who receive sexual solicitations are unlikely to tell a parent or guardian. I think for me that is significant. And we need to deal with that because it's a big problem.
The issue of parenting.
Yes, issue of parenting and being close to your children, but also trying to understand what your children are doing online.
Okay.
It might not be through blocking, and I agree with you, because at times the children know more than the parents.
Okay.
So they'll be able to crack those passwords, they'll be able to circumvent whatever security controls we put in place. I think it's not an effort in futility, but I don't think it's the right approach.
Okay.
Let's be close to our children, but most importantly, just go and check. One, don't have computers in the bedrooms, for example. Let them not stay with their machines overnight. Let them use their machines in an open space. Walk around and just peep and see what they're doing. They'll know. If you do that a few times, they'll know that any time
you can show up.
You can show up and check what they're doing. I think those are some of the basic tenets that if we follow would have a significant impact.
Well, thank you so much, Vincent Ngudi, Acting Director, Cybersecurity and Head of National Cybersecurity Center at the Communications Authority of Kenya, that's CA, and Andrew Njoroge, Managing Director, Cyber One Solutions, East and West Africa, helping us with this discussion about how to navigate the internet safely. Today being the Safer Internet Day and the challenges that are brought about by our interactions, especially on the internet. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for agreeing to come to our studios. Right now, I'd like to hand you over to Stanley for the day's county diary. Stanley, over to you.
Right, most definitely, Fred. And just a reminder, also, question of the day, still on the same matters. What do you do to ensure your online experiences are safe? You can talk to us because, I mean, even as the experts say, a huge percentage are quite in the whole online. So what do you do? We'll be getting into radio feedback as the whole tail end of the show. Right now, we'll be updating you on what to expect. Quite a number of events as of today, National Assembly Committee events, as well as diplomats, politicians from Ukraine, getting into and also meeting up with, government officials. ODM leader Raila Odinga is also expected to visit victims of the Embakasi fire. But key today, it is also International Day of Zero Tolerance for Female Genital Mutilation, and we'll be getting an update from Kisii as well, from Alfaya Kombo.
Stan, thank you so much. Allegedly, the founding father, or that rather history says that the founding father, President Mzee Jomo Kenyatta, walked from the State House Lodge in Nakuru crossed over to the War Memorial Hospital that is just next to the State House Lodge here in Nakuru County. And of course, he verbally declared that the place, or rather part of the hospital land, is annexed annexed. And remember, that was to say that it was annexed by the government, and it was a peaceful annexation. But also, right now, the county government of Nakuru and the War Memorial Management have, of course, have been embroiled in a tussle over the land that is a 25-acre piece of land. But of course, understand that the civil society right in this particular county have a word to speak about, and more especially to say about this particular tussle that has been there, and that has led to the senator, that is the current senator for Nakuru, that is Tabitha Karanja, to of course propose an impeachment for the current governor, that is Susan Kika. But allow me to talk to the civil society, that is the Nakuru civil society, to tell me what they think about this whole particular matter concerning the War Memorial land tussle. I'll begin with you, Bwana Masese. Tell me what you think. I believe you're the chairman. I don't know. You will tell us about that. But tell us what you think about this particular land tussle that is, of course, going on in Nakuru.
Thank you so much, Chichi. My name is Paul Masese. I'm presently a convener of Nakuru Civil Society Organizations Forum. And the forum brings together, is being arbitrated by the court. We just wanted to go that way. We've been very patient. It's alleged that the management of the hospital forged documents, and as a sector, we are keen to know if indeed that is true. And the only place we can get that information from is once the court proceedings are finalized and a determination is made. What disturbs us right now is the direction that the matter is taking. We have seen and very greatly worried by the fact that government continues to disobey court orders. That's what worries us the most. And today we are addressing the media to call upon government to respect court orders. From the top, it started with the president, is now getting down to counties. With time, perhaps, Kenyans will also start taking law unto themselves, and that is a recipe for anarchy. As civil society, that worries us the most because our work is promoting constitutional principles and standards. The latest incident where wounds were deployed on the facility is also a point at anarchy and entrenchment of impunity. So this is what we are concerned about, and my colleagues are here to call upon, first and foremost, the government, both from the national level and the county level, to respect rule of law. Rule of law is better than rule of man. So we cannot sit aside as a civilized society and watch as the people we elected and delegated our sovereign powers to, take the country to the dogs. So really, that's why we're here today. Yeah.
So do you believe that the part of the hospital land belongs to the government?
What we've gathered and what is in the public domain is that this land was leased. Yeah, there was a lease. The lease expired. Government has got the powers to renew or not to renew any lease. So if the government wished not to renew the lease, and if indeed, as it's being alleged, that the management of the hospital forged documents to extend the lease, and since the parties have gone to court, what is expected of a civilized society? The court should be allowed to prosecute the matter and then make a determination. And what does natural justice demand? On the first instance, the magistrate issued stay orders that the county government should not interfere with the operations of the hospital until the matter is addressed. Yeah, so that was not obeyed. What we saw instead was that the county government deployed enforcement officers at the facility to stop the operations. That's the first instance at which the court order was disobeyed. And that is what we are concerned about. Whether the land, let's be very clear. We are not here to hold brief for for the management of the facility. Neither are we here to hold brief on behalf of the county government.
What are your demands, Masese, briefly?
Our demands are very simple, and my colleagues will add to them. Number one, we need to see the county government, led by Governor Susan Kika, obeying court orders. That is why we elected him, to protect that, and they say that, and of course...
He did not say anything.
He went to the hospital and supervised the return of the management, but immediately they left, wounds descended on the hospital. Now we need to understand from who sent those goons. How come the police did not do anything to stop the goons? There are videos making rounds online of people looting and making way out of the hospital with some commodities. Who sent him? So Mr. Ndanyi, the county commander of police in Nakuru County, should come out and explain to the public whose orders is he implementing, even though the court orders. What is stopping him from taking action against those individuals who were captured on film? The same day, those goons threatened the journalists. We have seen videos making rounds where they are telling journalists that if they don't stop the coverage, they are going to descend upon them. So the county command of police must protect journalists and any other person, including members of Nakuru Civil Society Forum, who have taken a position on this issue. Finally, we ask, if they are daring us to take law into our own hands, would the governor and the politicians be happy to lead a country that is would they be comfortable if we take the anarchy route?
Masese, you've taken a lot of time. Allow me to talk to him briefly. 1 minute, kindly. Tell me what you think.
Decisions that are being given, then whose orders are they taking? And also just to ensure, and also just to insist that journalists have the freedom to be able to provide information to the public. So they are a private entity. They should not be coerced by anyone. And as this, we are encouraging him to come out clean and explain to the public whose orders are they implementing if it's not the court's orders. Yes.
Do you feel the county government is on the wrong?
Well, we are waiting for the court rulings, but at this point we want to also encourage the county government to ensure that all court rulings that are being provided or are being given by the courts are being respected and followed to the latter. Yes.
Unfortunately, I won't talk to any other person because I'm being told that the time is not on our side. Therefore, Stan, those are, of course, Nakuru Civil Society group that, of course, are talking in regards to what has been happening in this particular county and, of course, concerning the land tussle that has involved the Nakuru County government and the War Memorial Hospital. And, of course, that is all they have to speak about. But allow me have later talk to them, and of course I'll be able to update our viewers to what will be happening in Nakuru County in our subsequent bulletin. Over to you, Stan. My name is Chichi Josephine.
Thank you for that, Chichi Josephine, as well as Eliud Karanja there from Nakuru. I'm taking you to Kisii County, matters FGM. Today is International Day of Zero Tolerance for FGM. Over to you, Alfayo Kombo. What should we be expecting from your side?
Thank you, Stanley Nyarengita. I'm getting you very well from these sides of Kisii County and the larger parts of Gusii. And as you know, all know that today the United Nations will be commemorating, and Kenya will be joining other countries to be commemorating the International Day of Zero Tolerance to FGM, female genital mutilation. And here in Kisii County, the Ministry of Gender, Culture and Sensitization will be having a nature walk from these offices of the county commissioner all the way, that is 650 meters away from here, to Nyankongo Primary School, whereby they'll be commemorating the day. And being that, if I may be able to explain to our viewers what is entailed or making the Gender Culture Officer to be able to commemorate this day here in Kisii County, being that if I be able to give the statistics or the prevalences of these cases within the national statistics, that Somali area has different areas of Marani, whereby these cases have been reported, areas of Gianchere and Moso, Kitutu, Chache, South. This is something that has been affecting more girls here in Kisii area, and is something that will be able to do some sensitization today here at Nyankongo, and I will be able to be following this issue. And another thing that may expected to happen here in Kisii County today is that last week on Thursday, there was some demonstration by students of Gianchere Mixed Secondary School. This was after the students heard of some rumors that was hovering around the school, whereby their principal, that is David Opio, was being transferred to some school in Homa Bay. And the students were angered with this issue and decided to riot from the school to the county sub-county director of education's office that is 3 kilometers away from their schools, whereby there were tear gas canisters, whereby the police officers from Keumbu police station were able to disperse the students, and 3 of the students were injured badly, and they are continuing to recuperate there at Kisii Teaching and Referral Hospital. And the board of the school decided to close the school down on Friday, and today the students have been expected to go back to school with their parents, and the board of the management of the school will be having meeting with the county director of education, that is Philip Chirichiri. This is something that will be following up and be able to bring up to speed our viewers. I don't have much more to say, but pass the mantle back to you in studio. Stanley Nyarengita, my name is Kombo Alfayo.
All right, asante sana Kombo Alfayo.
Today on the International Day of Ending FGM. Yeah, quite a busy morning it has been.
Oh yes, I'm looking for, we had asked what do the viewers do to ensure that the online presence is safe. There's someone on Facebook, TV47 in Kenya, says that is Musa Kalume using VPN or HTTPS secure protocol. That's according to him, yes.
At least he understands. Many people don't even understand the first, the door towards safety in the internet. That's something that will definitely continue. It's a conversation that will continue online, on X at TV47 News and on Facebook, TV47.